Good morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We are at 4617 Southeast Steel Street here in Portland. We're located down in the basement. We're on the far left side foundation wall. That's as you face the front of the house from the street. Tucked in the closet here, we have a 4-inch cast iron cleanout. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is running, we are zeroed out, and off we go. Transitioning here to 6-inch concrete. All right, we just hit the main here at about 53 feet, and the line did transition over to 6-inch clay pipe there just a moment ago. So we're going to let the pipe drain off. We're going to go locate, and then we'll have a better look at things as we come back. We do have some settling issues going on in the concrete pipe we're going to take a close look at once the line's drained. Okay. To kill 2 birds with 1 stone here, the transition to clay is typically at the curb in this part of town. And the curb out is where the city takes responsibility. So we're going to pull back to the transition joint and just locate there, verifies the street we're going out to and where the clay pipe and concrete are. All right, what I was just talking about here a moment ago, when you get settling in these older pipe materials, it is often due to the pipe joints wearing out. They're grouted, which is just another type of concrete which wears out, just like you'll see in the flow line of the concrete pipe when we come back. I just wanted to point this out as an example because it's an easy one to see. If you look at the top of the pipe, right, which is at the kind of bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now, you can see that substance up at the top there. That's staining from the pipe joint being open to the ground. It's where groundwater and dirt is seeping through. And what you also have in conjunction with that is some settling. Albeit right here, this is not significant settling. It's just, I wanted to point that out. It's a good example, and it's an easy spot to be able to see that. In fact, you right here, I think, actually have a fracture in the clay pipe. There almost looks like there's a line there in front of the water. So anyway, that's what happens over time when these joints get worn out. Yeah, you do have a crack there in the pipe. You can see that in the bottom right-hand corner. So that's I just wanted to point that out. It's a nice visual explanation. Sometimes these bellies are so deep you can't really get a good look at the joint. In that case, that's kind of what I wanted to iterate there, was when the joints start wearing out, your line will get exposed to the ground. It leads to settling issues, which it can prevent you in cases from being able to do a trenchless epoxy liner, for instance. Anyway, we're going to go locate here. All right, just located the camera head there. The line goes out to 46th. We're sitting, my locate right now is coming in just barely past the curb. That curb kind of monkeys with the locate just a little bit. I'm getting about 6 foot 6 inches to about 7 foot deep, depending on if I'm trying to locate through the curb or just past it in the street. So right around the 7 foot deep mark there. So anyway, just about every joint we've gone past in the clay pipe is showing some level of staining, and indicates that the joints are open to the ground. And when that's happening in clay pipe, which is a superior product to concrete, the material itself doesn't have a wear life on it. It'll last for 1,000 years. It'll look the exact same way, smoothness wise, as it does today. The weak point is the joints where it's grouted. So when you get issues like that occurring in clay pipe, it is essentially undoubtedly occurring in the concrete pipe. As the concrete it's a porous product for one thing. Anyway, that's some of the grout sticking through the joint right there. You can see it. So anyway, you've got dirt staining throughout that whole section there. The clay pipe is in city territory. That's not homeowners. The joint there, the transition's doing the same thing too. So we're going to see how we'll see how the standing water looks as we pull back in here. And so far what we're in right now is very, very minor standing water. You know, for instance, if this were in plastic pipe, I'd hardly even be talking about it. Again, it's a more concerning because it's an indicator in concrete pipe generally that the joints are being exposed to the ground. And nowadays, with the advent of epoxy lining, which is a trenchless repair system, it really behooves you to get ahead of these things. Generally speaking, it's a big cost savings. So like the standing water we had up ahead there is stuff that I would, no doubt about it, say shoot a liner through it. It's going to displace most of the standing water. What you're left over with is extremely minor anyway. As we get back into here a little further, the standing water is well over an inch. In fact, that's closer to about 2 inches of standing water there at its worst point. This is not the part of the line where I would generally recommend you line. You can still line it, but you're going to retain the standing water. You'll have at least an inch of water left over. You would certainly be improving things, don't get me wrong, but you know, ideally when you update these, you end up with little to no standing water, all said and done. You've got quite a bit of aggregate rock that's being exposed in the line too. And when aggregate rock, when concrete becomes this worn out, the groundwater just seeps right through the sidewalls of the pipe. You can see how deep the aggregate is there. You've got another separated joint there as well. And here as well. And you can see how toilet paper is kind of congregating around these joints. What happens at these joints, water can escape them. It's not always the case why the toilet paper hangs up there, but it's often the reason. As the water is escaping, it creates that negative pressure and it pulls the toilet paper into the joint. That's a bummer about that belly there, because most of this has not settled a whole lot yet. But I promise you it's on its way to doing it. Just about every joint in this thing is separated and open to the ground. So I'm going to recommend a full update to all concrete pipe that's on property here. I would recommend, you could look at both repair options. One's not going to end up with a perfect result, although it will improve things greatly. Ideally, you end up with a properly sloped and graded sewer line, so you don't run the risk of that standing water ever causing an issue. I'm going to push just past the transition here to get a better locate. I'll try to adjust for pushing past it, but just know that locate might be off by 6 inches to a foot. Alrighty, so I've got a marking at the curb. I'm marking about 6-7 feet outside the foundation wall here. Again, that's on the left side of the house. As you face the front door from the street, line does essentially a dead straight shot from end to end here, which is a fabulous arrangement. Very few lines run straight like this. It also gives you more repair options because of that. So, you know, first and foremost, what I'd be looking into here, if you can do it, if you could do something like a pipe burst on it, which is semi-trenchless, you're punching a hole at each end of the repair, as long as they can get most of that belly out of there. Sometimes with bursting, you don't get a perfect gradation. You can get an improvement. You know, I think that would be, you know, a decent compromise in this case, but I would try and shoot to correct that grade as much as possible. You know, the ideal scenario here would be trenching, which is gonna, well, doesn't guarantee anything, but that allows you to get perfect slope and grade if installed properly. So that tie-in there on the left side, that's a storm system tie-in there. That's not a party line or anything like that. Cast iron here is held up beautifully. Zero scale buildup. That is some fabulous looking cast iron right there. This is the one of the good eras of cast iron. This stuff holds up a long time. And that's a beautiful example of cast iron right there from this age. So anyway, recommend all concrete pipe and or clay. I don't think any of the clay is on property. My locate came in just past the face of the curb. Sometimes you're locating on a curb like that, it can throw the locate off just slightly, but basically everything from the cast iron transition on out to the end of homeowner responsibility. I highly recommend, if you can, take the repair barely just a little bit past the face of the curb. The reason for that is Portland streets are lined with trees. Transition joints are by far the weakest joint in your sewer line. They will plow through a perfectly good transition joint like you can't believe. So when you take that repair smack dab to the face of the curb and that occurs, the city in almost every scenario is going to make it the homeowner's problem. If you take that just past the face of the curb and the roots come through, if it happens, obviously, it is in city territory, and you can usually accomplish that without really spending a whole lot, if any, extra money at all. It's a very good idea to do so. I hate seeing that happen. The other thing I would recommend doing just outside the house here, up against the home, there's a smaller kind of sapling tree. I would recommend getting rid of that tree or moving it. It's sitting extremely close proximity to the sewer line. More importantly, very close proximity to the transition joint from cast iron to concrete, and what will likely be cast iron to plastic or of some sort here soon. Again, I would not want that tree right there. You're just asking for a root to come through a transition joint. It's not a good placement for it. After any repairs are done, I recommend rescoping the line to check the work, whether you do a trenchless or trench style repair. You want to do any trenching repairs when the trench is closed. Don't scope it when it's open, or you're looking at everything in theory at that point. You're not going to catch settling problems until you've got 7-8 feet of earth on top of the line. And if you do some kind of trenchless repair, again, scope it once as much work is done on it as possible.